look out there now, folks. Way in the distance, see that nondescript brick building sitting quietly? That's the Vogue building. It's over 115 years old. It's lovely. Look just past that. See the off-white stocky stone tower. You can see the entire western face of the building there. See the upper part of the structure there at the cornice. You actually see Ionic-style Roman columns. Those columns there are super indicative of that Beaux-Arts. Those are not supporting anything like the Laura Temple with a distinct ornate appearance. And in addition to the Beaux-Arts, you'll see that you're building on top so that more sunlight can come into the city streets. You need to see how laws dictate architecture. In addition, Art Deco buildings feature historical accents. You're probably wondering who the statue on top of the CBOT is. Her name is Ceres. Ceres is the Greco-Roman goddess of grain. She pays tribute to the fact that the Chicago Board of Trade originally was a grains exchange. That building there, the CBOT by Halliburton and Root, and you'll see more Art Deco by Halliburton and Root later,
This is the steel
was the
bridge
tallest
that
skyscraper
you
in
said you
Chicago
want to
for
touch.
25 years. The building is a mind-melting 45 stories tall. And you may remember it from the movies, right?
Under the bridge, you can touch it.
1987 film, The Untouchable. Now, prepare to get a photograph of the tallest skyscraper in Chicago, the 23rd tallest building on the planet, standing 1,451 feet in height, 110 stories tall. You know it, you love it. It is the
Willis Tower.
Sears Tower. Very well done, yes. It is now called the Willis Tower. And that's interesting, you know why? Because nobody calls it that. They're fighting right now. Willis Tower, Sears Tower, it dates back to 1974, designed by Bruce Graham with the firm Skidmore, Owings & Merrill. In the mid-century, friends, the 1950s, 1960s, 1970s, they were building dark black boxes. Modernism. The father of modern architecture is a man named Mies van der Rohe, so we often call the mid-century building the Miesi of black boxes. I'll tell you more about the Sears Tower in a little bit as we see her again shortly, but kindly look to the right-hand side there. Look at the red and pink granite on 311 South Wacker Drive. All that stone came from Texas. They combined that stone with glass and steel. Notice the octagon-shaped tower, the big bumper
You'll
tubes
see
up on
it tomorrow.
top. The building, nothing about it is a dark black box, right? That's the answer to modernism. After 30 years of
Don't worry,
using
you're
black
not gonna
boxes
jump.
in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, material was craved. References to other buildings, places, time period were a big Boeing headquarters. It was built 1990, so you know it's going to be the opposite of the black box. Look how overwhelming the Boeing headquarters is there with the architectural spire and aerospace design. Here's the neat thing. All the buildings to our left are built over metric and Amtrak trains. You'll hear and see that feeding in the overview. On the 13th-story portion, they actually pulled the building up over the tracks. That's what's known as a cantilever system. I hope you're all waving this building. And if you are not waving, you are wrong. So the Boeing headquarters is cantilevered over the city. Those 300 buildings got together August 4th, 1833, at the Sawgrass Hotel, which used to sit here in the name of this small town, Chicago. It came from the term that the Native Americans used to describe the small party deck on the new building, the exact same building as the setback on the neighborhood. See how those two pictures lined up? Yeah, that's actually a very subtle connection. A lot of the buildings have more, obvious, you see what they're doing. But that one is neat. You can now say, 55 West Wacker? What happened to you, bro? Who did this to you, fam? So that squatty, coarse, heavy concrete, what might remind you of a bunker, that's what's known as brutalism. Brutalism, not because like, oh man, it's brutal. That comes from the French, béton brut, which translates roughly to raw concrete. In the 1960s and 70s, governments and universities, they used a lot of brutalism. It's very inexpensive, easy to work with, and as you'll note, brutalism tends to induce your compliance. Very rigid, very structured. If you got friends who love it, Carbide and Carbon building there on Michigan Avenue is a historical landmark. 24 karat gold on top. It is 1/500th of an inch thick. Go see the Carbide and Carbon building. It was designed by Daniel Burnham's sons. The Burnham brothers, as they're known. Yeah, Daniel Jr., Herbert Burnham. They designed that structure. Go see it. And then this one, friends, you will absolutely love. You ready for this? On the right, one of my favorites. Yeah. From 1926. That's the former Jewelers building by Glaver and Dinkelberg. Gaze upon that two-tone stone building. What looks like terracotta, right? Like you're wandering through Florence, looking for Point Vecchio, trying to find David. That's actually locally sourced limestone. That is locally sourced limestone. They saved a bundle by not actually getting the terracotta from Italy, but that building is modeled after, a 15th century Italian monastery. Go walk by 35 East Wacker Drive, folks, the former Jewelers building. The double tap of the horn from the captain informs the vessel ahead of us to make way, as we are going to pass you on your left. When Captain Joe lays on the horn, he's actually quoting Ludacris. People in Chicago will tell you if they're a North Sider or a South Sider. They'll tell you where to get your pizza and your hot dog, things like that. They happily will tell you what buildings they love and enjoy. And this one happens to be a downtown favorite. Non-native resident, a half-African, half-French man named Dusable, Jean-Baptiste Pont Dusable. The French say Dusable, we in Chicago say Dusable. That's the Chicago accent working for you there. Dusable was a fur trapper trader, a frontiersman, lived in France, lived in New Orleans, lived here in Chicago on the lakefront. This is the old shoreline of Lake Michigan. Folks, from 1776 to 1800, Dusable lived here on the shoreline. We gotta watch our heads as they come under this Parisian-inspired limestone, etc. See how very unusually now, you can see the base and the cornice have French Gothic revivalism. It's like actually a New Age building from 1924, but just has like this light touch of reference that reaches back to, right, the European styles that built the original skyscrapers. Raymond Hood and John Meade Howells, they designed the Tribune. Come down and see it later. Look at those sliding buttresses up on top. They just turned the Tribune Tower into very expensive condos. Purchased a few years ago by a developer. They kicked the Tribune out, much to their bow of a ship as we go by. The front end of a boat, yeah. And you gotta love it too, right? After 30 years of dark black boxes, some guy comes along in the 80s and he's like, boom, triangle. Just hit it with it. I'll show you more developments by Harry Weiss later on. We'll talk about the nautical themes that come with this project. Now, over here at Riverview 1 and 2, they sold off the parking spaces to those who lived here. Back in 2005, they sold them. They went for a sticker price of $50,000. $50K to have a parking.
There's one of those.
There's a British manufactured yacht there. That's the Stone Speaker. That's a very nice boat. And as you come under the bridge, you'll really appreciate the boating culture. As you enter
We're gonna go there tomorrow first. Before we go to the Willis Tower, we'll go to the Navy Pier there. And the Ferris wheel.
Harbors, we have over 2 dozen beaches.
Do you want to ride the Ferris
The
wheel?
Chicago River and embrace the neighborhoods in and around it. But also make sure you come out to our lakefront any time of the year.
You want to ride the Ferris wheel?
There's Dusable Harbor on the right, named after our first non-native resident. You saw where he lived by Michigan Avenue. To our left, they're going to build Dusable Park over time as they build some new developments there by Lakeshore Drive. And folks, if you look out straight ahead of us, you'll see where all those boats just so out here, friends, in the turning basin is Navy Pier. Don't think of Navy Pier as a tourist trap that you can avoid. We do want you to go see it. I would suggest walking to the end of it and back at a minimum. It's a lovely walk. You'll get great views of our lakefront and our skyline. There's a rooftop bar out there called Offshore. Offshore is cool. New hotel called Sable. Make sure you ride the Ferris wheel, folks. At Navy Pier, ride the Ferris wheel.
See, there you go.
We
heard you.
There's even a theater out on Navy. Rising on the city, you'll love this imagery, this cinematography. You're heading down the river now on the main branch in Chicago, the birthplace of a modern-day skyscraper. Here we go. Beautiful views as that sun begins to set, and to that point, friends, I want to bring you back to the St. Regis. Look how spectacular the building looks from here. I always do point it out from this location, talk about it during both passes. Engineering. All right. When they began to build this building, they realized the foundation built. Things like that do not happen. In this instance, it only did, again, because the foundation space was not as big as the plans had called for. There was no, as it were, mistake, just an alteration. That's not all, though. On top of the St. Regis, There's what's known as a tuned mass damper. There's several massive concrete tanks up there, and they're all full of tens of thousands of gallons of water. When the building vibrates in the wind, boat rentals, kayaking, you'll see geese and ducks with their kids in the water. And here we have a beautiful sea ray coming about, 48-footer, no big deal, they make bigger ones. Boat season for sailboats, this one will open all the time. You need only show up in a big boat, radio in on channel 16, you know, approaching South Loop or leaving South Loop, please open up the Amtrak bridge and
Wow! Wow, so sweet! Happy birthday, Dave!